So we have an NGRS build that we're doing, and I was sent a free set of unreleased Solink NGRS gears. So I'm going to share with you guys my first impressions of the set that I have. I guess let's just start with the setup that I normally run in these NGRSs. Normally I'm getting the Lilacs 20-to-1 gear set, and I'm getting the Solink helical bevel and pinion. Now, I made a post on my Instagram that, as far as metrics are concerned, is doing really well. So it must have resonated with a lot of people. But Solink has had a bevel gear problem, and it's an issue that manifests other issues in a lot of standard AEG builds, and it can also manifest issues in these NGRS builds. I haven't found it to be too much of a problem in the NGRS platform. However, I am going to talk about it, and I am going to compare these gears to this setup. What we have here is a 20-to-1 set, and I'm just going to play this clip for you so you can see how you can tell if a gear set is 20-to-1 or whatever ratio it is. So yeah, it's like 20 point some change to 1. It's almost 21 to 1. And then motor wise, I'm usually using a Solink V5, but that's really not here nor there. So the first thing I want to talk about is that this 20-to-1 gear set from Solink comes already with the helical bevel, which is really nice. And then, you know, we see these teeth, very reminiscent to like standard NGRS cut gears. So this is truly made for the NGRS, and you get all the shimming flexibility that comes with that. Let's start with this, because this is the first thing that people are going to ask. If we take the Solink bevels that had, you know, the problem, what we noticed when we compare the problematic Solink bevels with all the other bevels that we would get on the market is this. These guys overall would just be quite short. So like I'm getting like 12.3 here. Whereas if I took like any other bevel gear, you know, 12.54 here. If I take this bevel gear, 12.7, you know, so there's a certain margin of error, or I guess tolerances, that exist within all these aftermarket parts. And obviously you have to shim gears for a reason. So they're not all going to be very, very precise or precisely the same as far as their dimensions. And that's just to be expected. But the issue with the problematic Solink bevels is that it was unprecedented how short they really were compared to pretty much all the other options. And what would happen with these gears is, in order to get the proper beveled pinion, you end up shimming your bevel a certain way so that you get good beveled pinion. And like 9 times out of 10 when you do this and you get proper beveled pinion, you end up having so much room this side of the gear. So you have a whole stack of shims here. And what that really means is you have to shim your step gear really high in order to get good engagement with the teeth, which means your sector gear ends up having to get shimmed really high so that it's not crashing into your step gear. And then when your sector gear is shimmed really high, you have issues where it's crashing into the body of your piston instead of meshing with the teeth. You have issues where it can wedge your tappet plate. And you have issues where, in the case of like a Jeftron Leviathan, or an Aster, or a Jeftron Sela, your cutoff cam ends up being shimmed too high to where the board doesn't detect it. And if you're running a Gate Titan where you have like that top and bottom board, this guy can get shimmed so high that it ends up rubbing against the top board, which is not ideal. So then you have to make a bunch of concessions to your shimming if you want to run like those Solink gears. And there's other gear sets you can get, but not every company makes full helical sets. And as far as just buying a helical bevel and pinion, what's nice about the Solink is that you get the D-type helical, and they fit very precisely on their D-type shafts. So if you're already running a Solink motor, it's just a no-brainer. So let's talk about like just the helical tooth profile. The pinion gear that would come with these older guys is the same exact pinion gear that you're going to get with these newer guys. So there's no real difference there. So like we purchased this motor pre-equipped with the helical pinion on it, and there's no issue because it's going to work with this guy just fine. So that's the whole bevel gear problem addressed. And I would sit here and measure all of these other gears. However, I did already shim the gearbox that I'm working on, which is a retro arm shell. This is one of the older gen ones, but I already shimmed it up, and everything else just honestly shimmed up really nicely. So they just seem to have kind of conformed more to what is more common. What I do like, first impressions on these gears, the precision of the machining is much nicer than the Lilacs gears. I like the Lilacs gears because they're not the $150 something Siege Tech gears. They're not as hard as the Siege Tech gears, which means that when you're running like the FPS soft air piston or the pistons available for the NGRS, you don't have to worry about the Siege Tech gears chewing all those parts up. And then pretty much all the other gears available for NGRSs, they're kind of shit. They're not worth using. Lilacs gears always end up getting used. However, these aren't perfect. This is just like the best option that we've had for a long time. If I zoom in on this and we look at the bottom teeth and the top teeth of this sector gear, you can very clearly see where they are not perfectly aligned with each other on every tooth. And you'll find some teeth where they're more misaligned than others. Now, if this is slightly off, it's not the end of the world. However, you do hear it in the shimming. Once your shimming is all said and done, and you're using these, if you get a bad sector gear, because there's like good ones, and then sometimes you just get a lemon. When you get a lemon, you'll notice that both halves of this gear, if you look at this gap right here, they're not two perfectly flat surfaces lying flush with each other. And as you spin the gear, you'll notice that it can be kind of wobbly. And that's not really great. When your gears kind of wobble around because they're not very precise, basically your margin for error decreases, which means you kind of have to compensate for that by having more space between each gear. And that's done to prevent them from rubbing against each other where they shouldn't be and causing friction and metal shavings and potentially death. Now, the position of the delay cam and the cutoff cam on these Lilacs gears compared to the Solink gear, if you look at where the pickup tooth is, we can see a cutout here on the delay cam, which is kind of nice. That'll help prevent tappet PME. Just that little bit of a cutout is just, again, it's going to prevent us from picking up that tappet plate a little bit too early if we're doing a fast build. And if we were to pick up the tappet plate too early, then we can see inconsistent FPS, mainly just FPS loss from breaking the air seal too soon before the piston makes it all the way home. Usually these NGRS builds don't get built to be that fast to where that's an issue, unless you're willing to redact your empty mag detection and, allow there to be precock on it. You precock an NGRS build enough, you lose the empty mag detection, and a lot of people, myself included, really value that feature. Let's look at the cutoff cam relative to where the pickup tooth is. So if we have our pickup tooth at 12 o'clock, looks like our cutoff cam is pointing at the third tooth, whereas here, it looks like we're still pointing at the third tooth. So it looks like the position of the cutoff cam relative to these teeth is still the same. So as far as cycle detection with the Jeftron Leviathan, that should still all be good. But if you look at these teeth, you'll notice how the top half and the bottom half are a lot more precise. And I can hear it in the shimming when I free spin the gears, that it sounds a lot smoother because we don't have these weird little steps and hiccups once we get to these teeth. All the other gears in this set look good. I trust Solink to make reliable gears because their gears they're tough, good, relatively affordable gears, and usually they're very precisely made. Now, I do want to kind of reiterate that this was a free sample that I got. This is not a production batch, and as of the filming of this video, this is an unreleased product. So take that into account when I talk about the issues that I have with this gear set at the moment. And this could just be the set that I got. This might not be an issue that you'd see on every single set. So let's start with the bevel gear. The bevel gear is the most imprecise gear out of this set. When I spin it, you can see that while the axle is straight and these bottom teeth are very well aligned with the axle, when you look at the actual beveled part, it looks like a wobbly record on a record player. If you happen to do a build where you need less shims, you can run into the risk of this guy rubbing against the surface of the gearbox shell. So you definitely need enough shim. I needed enough shims on this one to make sure that it's not going to rub against the gearbox shell itself and only engage with the bearing. And I'm fortunate that that was enough shims as well to get proper beveled pinion. I'm at least happy about that. And the beveled pinion actually doesn't sound bad when I just free spin it. I take a circuit and I hook it up to the motor when everything's together. And I just spin the motor with the bevel gear. And I actually just listen to how that's meshing when I finish doing everything. And it sounds good, but I know that it would sound better if this gear was more precise. Another issue I had was I noticed that this axle on the sector gear, you'll notice that it's kind of shiny. It's because I basically had to attach this guy to my drill and spin it. And I had to basically sand this down a little bit with really fine grit sandpaper. You can kind of see it here, but there's little dings on the shaft there. That could have just been damaged during shipping. This could have just been a slight lemon or defect that got out of the factory. Again, these are sample gears. I don't think this is their finished product that they're going to be producing. And I have some better high-res close-ups kind of showing that. But I'm not too happy about that. That's something I'd have to deal with rocket gears. It's something I don't want to have to deal with Solink gears. I think that these gears are supposed to be at least nicer than having that issue. But otherwise, the gears seem pretty good. I'm going to throw all of these in the sonic cleaner, and I'm going to remove these screws, clean out the holes, and green Loctite them all back in so that I know that they're secure, because I never trust factory gears to have these screws secure. The only time I do is if I physically can't get them out. So if that happens, that's a good sign, but I'm going to go do that. After I do that, I'm going to check the shimming again, and then I'll let you guys kind of see what the free spin is looking like and all that good stuff. All in all, this gear set is phenomenal. I would use these over the Lilacs gears any day. And as far as the slight QC issues with this particular set that I got, I spoke to some other techs that got free samples. They said they did not have the issues with the shaft or the bevel gear being wobbly. So I'm going to chalk that up to a lemon. And I've installed a lot of Solink gear sets, and those QC issues are not reflected in any of their other products. The only issue I truly ever had with Solink was the spec of their bevels, and with this gear set and their other newer gear sets that we'll have another video on, they fixed those issues. So I'm happy to say that this is a good gear set. When they're available, you should totally buy them. That's all I got for this one. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Good night. God bless. I'm out.